So thank you so much for meeting with me.
My pleasure.
I'm so excited, and actually this is like probably the most nervous I've been on one of these because it's you. And like Brian Granader has been my yoga teacher. He was when I did my teacher training, he taught me to be a yoga teacher. He certified me, and I've learned so much from you. And like I don't think you understand like how what a milestone and big part of my life that whole process was,
Wow.
but it was. It's something that I needed. I always felt like there was something missing in my life, and I came here just not even planning on doing anything like that, just planning on learning more about yoga, and it kind of opened a door and something that I'm into and interested in, and it's just picked my life up, you know, when I was down. So thank you.
You're welcome.
But I'm interested to hear your story because I know that you were in the real estate business. I'm interested in hearing on how you transitioned to that, to this, and what was that like for you? And
It was, it was a very interesting time. I was selling real estate. I was helping people buy and sell homes. And I think that around, and I went at it very hard. I mean, I was cold calling and door knocking every day. I had 2 headsets, you know, one on each ear, 2 phones, and I would do dual dialing up and down the street. And hi, it's Brian Granader from Red Lotus Yoga, or what? Actually, Brian Granader from Century 21. When do you plan on moving? And over and over and over and over again. And I built up a very strong business. I was very competitive, and all I cared about was how to sell. You know, how do I get in more paychecks, and how do I
more money.
make more deals? And then around the 5th or 6th year, I started to realize that that was not satisfying at all. Although I had a lot of toys and money and everything else, I started to think about, well, how many people can I help? Who can I help? How can I help them? And sometimes helping them was convincing them or encouraging them to not buy a house, you know? And those days felt great. And I realized, boy, you know, I want to be more in the people business and less in the real estate business. And then as the market started to come down, I just couldn't stomach it anymore. It got exceptionally competitive, and people were very unhappy because, you know, deals wouldn't go their way. They wanted more money. Their money wasn't there. It just, I was done, and I knew I was done, and I was looking for an out. And at the time, I was practicing yoga, and I loved it. I mean,
so how were you introduced to yoga? Just,
a friend just said, "Hey, come to a yoga class with me." I mean, it was very, you know, I believe in cause and effect, but I wasn't looking for it.
Yeah.
Yoga kind of found me.
Yeah.
And then I took a teacher training program to deepen my practice, and I started teaching part-time, and I loved it. There was just no place else I'd rather be. And at one point, somebody said to me, "Well, if you had your way, when would you get out of real estate?" And I said, "May 5th. And they said, "Why that date?" I said, "I don't know. It's the first date that came to mind."
Was that like the next day?
No. It was like 6 months.
Okay.
And so I started gradually taking fewer clients, and then on that day, I gave all of my clients to my assistant. I took some referrals for a year, and then I transitioned out completely. I started teaching yoga for full time, and then I bought a yoga studio and Red Lotus Yoga.
Today.
Yeah, 12 years later now.
Yeah.
And it's. I mean, it was scary. I knew real estate. I knew what I would earn every. You know, I had a sense of my life, and I was now diving into something completely unknown. And you know, in some ways, owning a yoga studio is different because you get to really connect with people in a different way, and there's personal relationships and transformative experiences that, you know, I get to. I don't believe I'm the cause of those experiences, but I believe that I'm there to hold someone's hand as they go through it.
Yeah, and you give them a safe place to do it at. I mean, if this wasn't here, I wouldn't know what to do. Well, before I would just search online. I'm like, I don't know what to do. You know, you just feel so lost sometimes. But if there's a bunch of people that feel that way together, it's magic. That's what happens.
And it's supportive.
Yeah, it's
and
supportive.
You can move further with a group of people like that. And that to me is very, very powerful, and I love that part of this business. And you know, I still take with me some of my other habit patterns from real estate and business-minded things. And you know, look, and some days it's a business where I'm working with people who want to be happy, and I'm helping them get there. That's great. But there's still employee problems and payroll and advertising and marketing, and it's still a business to run. And I still carry some worries that I used to have before. But so you can't just change the outside; the inside has to change too. I don't think I'd want to go back to real estate, even though I've done a lot of internal changing. I like where I'm at. I'm really happy doing what I do. I'm happy being married to my wife. I'm happy being the father of my child, and I'm finding greater and greater sense of contentment now than I ever have.
Yeah.
And part of it was the external change and being in the same environment, and part of it was getting on my mat and getting on my cushion and doing my practice over and over and over and over and over again to get here.
Yeah.
And that is the bigger part of it, I think.
Yeah, and I think also what happens too is like for me, I've been through lots of changes in my life, and you realize like those external changes, they give you that push, and then you get there, and then you realize, oh, I still have this stuff. You know, it didn't go away. So you really have to, then they're like, oh, well, it is me. It's not everything else. It's not the house. It wasn't my ex-boyfriend. It wasn't my job. It was me.
Yeah, it is. And I think yoga helps people see that faster.
Yeah.
What I love about working with yoga people is that a lot of times, some people are just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're ready to make change, and they realize that it's they who have to be responsible for it, not a pill or a therapist or a drug.
Yeah.
It comes back down to them, and this is a safe place for them to kind of come back into that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a good jumping off point for a lot of people.
Yeah. So what was like you didn't have like a breaking point or a time in your life when it was just like...
It was like this. I thought, how do I justify leaving a really good income and a good reputation in the community and all that I had built up for over 10 years? How do I justify that?
Yeah.
Well, I could have a heart attack. I could have cancer. I could get in a bad car accident. I could be involved in a terrible lawsuit. Those would be great reasons to quit real estate. And I thought, I'm going to create that. I will create a heart attack. Yeah, absolutely. We all have the ability to do that. And I thought, if I'm going to go out, I don't want to be forced out. I want to do this on my terms.
Yeah.
You hear about people who are alcoholics or addicts of some sort. And, when they finally go to jail for the third time, they decide to quit. Or when they finally hurt someone, they decide to quit. Well, what about deciding to quit when you are ready to quit and not when the world says you have to?
Right.
I think that's harder to do.
It is way harder to do.
And way more transformative.
Yes.
And that was what I signed up for. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for
making your own choice and your own decisions for your life.
Yeah.
How did you get into real estate? Was that not your choice?
No, I was very young. I mean, I right out of college with a journalism degree, I was working sales jobs and doing odd things here and there, and in the process, I got a real estate license, thinking I'll buy homes, I'll fix them up, I'll sell them, and then then I had the license, and then I found myself, I was working for my dad in his drugstore, not enjoying it at all. And I said to him, am I ever going to own or run this store? He says, nah, probably not. I said, all right, I'm giving you my 60-day notice. I'm out.
Yeah.
And I had the license. I said, I'm going to do this. And when I got my first paycheck, I had less than $500 in my account. Rent was due. And I never borrowed a dime. And I never looked back because I realized I could make a lot of money doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. So what were like the challenges as you're, trying to buy a business or to start the yoga studio? I mean, like, what was that transition? How?
Well, actually, being a realtor, you're self-employed.
Yeah.
So you're still a business person.
Okay.
You have marketing and advertising and taxes, and I had an assistant. So it was a good education, and I had sort of a business mindset. And when I opened the yoga studio, I treated it very similarly.
Yeah. One-on-one
relationships. You build it one person at a time. You do what you can to maintain that personal relationship and treat people well. Because, in one sense, because it's good karma, in another sense, because it makes a nice environment, and third, because you want them to come back.
Yeah.
Because I have bills to pay too, But I'll say for the first 3 or 4 years, I didn't earn a paycheck. I mean, I lived off my savings, and I lived very, very modestly during that time. It was a brand new business.
Well, even being a yoga teacher alone, like, I didn't realize how low it is.
Well, yeah, you've got to teach a lot of classes. And
yeah, all over the place if you want, because it's not like you can be employed the same studio all day. You
no, you
can't.
can't.
Go all over.
And the same studio may not have a bunch of classes to offer. I may have, like, I might have one class here or there, and that's all I can afford to get, because I've got other teachers.
Yeah.
So, challenge-wise, though, yoga was kind of a unique business 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Nobody else was really doing it. I felt like I didn't have anybody to talk to. In real estate, I had a real estate guru, and he could say to me, all right, here's what you got to do. You knock on 100 doors. You're going to get 50 answers. Of those 50, 25 will talk to you. Of those 25, you're going to get 10. They have some interest, and of those 10, you're going to get 5. And if you want to do 5 deals that month, you got to knock on 100 doors.
Yeah.
And that's how it went.
Yeah.
So I knocked on 100 doors a day. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. In yoga, there was no mentor. There was no group of people to say, hey, how are you doing this, and what's working and what's not working? Just the sheer unknown of it.
Yes.
And this is not a predictable business, You never know who's going to show up and when and how. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to work karmically and a little more esoterically, and before class, meditate. And how many people do you want to see in class today? And plant the seeds so that people will come. Mm-hmm. Create the space so they'll come. And that's a different mindset than, knock, knock, knock. Hi, I'm Brian from Century 21.
Yeah, you can't control it.
Not at all.
It's hard to stay passionate about what you're passionate for. It's like, it's so exciting and you love it so much, and you're like, this is great. Like, I feel so good when I do this. But it's like, it doesn't last forever, and...
It doesn't. People say to me, well, you're working in your passion, every day must be bliss.
Right.
No. It's a job like anything else some days, many days. And it does have some wonderful perks and benefits.
Yeah.
On the other side of it, people are like, well, I have to quit my job, I've got to find my passion, and I have to do this because I'm dying at this job. And I say, find your passion and bring it into your life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can make your job more passionate. Sometimes you can make your relationship more passionate by changing you rather than changing the external. And in some situations, look, if there's an abusive situation, if, I don't know, there's a lot of restructuring and corporate downsizing and all these things, there are times that, you do need to pull yourself out. But I would say the majority of the time you don't. And that people need to stop looking out there. If when that changes, I'll be happy.
Right.
When this changes, you'll be happy. And what are you doing to do that? And if that's bringing passionate things into your world, whatever it is, I love blowing bubbles. Well, then at lunchtime, get out there and blow bubbles. And put a smile on people's faces and walk back into work with a smile in your heart. It will change how you see your world. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be this big thing. Like,
no.
It doesn't have to be...
It doesn't have to be...
completely changing your life.
No. And I'm having a conversation with somebody right now. He's like, I need to change my life, and I'm worried about my mortgage, but if I give up my house, I can live with my parents. I'm like, what is it you're really looking for? Well, I want to be happier in my work. Well, how do you need to be happier? What do you do in your life to bring happiness in or to make space for happiness? Mm-hmm. Your work will get happier when you do that.
Right.
We always look for the outside to, that out there is going to fix this. Fix this, and that out there will look better.
Well, at like my age, I'm at this period in my life where it's like I want so many things for myself. Like, I want to do so much. I want to, like, change people's lives, and I want to just explore the world and, do so much. And it's like hard to kind of, I hear this from everyone, just be happy with what you have. Like, just be content with what you have.
That's not easy to do. That's a practice.
It's that.
It is a practice to be content. It is a practice to be happy with what you have. It doesn't just turn on.
No.
Because our society doesn't tell you to be happy with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Our society, advertisers say, you don't have enough, you need more, you're not doing it right, your body shape isn't the way it should be, your body size isn't, your clothes, everything down to your fingernails is not right, and you have to fix it. And it's all external. Mm-hmm. To find happiness within is an inner journey. It's not out there. You can't buy yourself happy.
Right.
it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I understand that. Like, I understand that part. But the whole part of accomplishing goals is what I can't get rid of. I'm like, I set this goal, and that's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
How do you not do that?
That's the best. That's great. You know, and the thing is that then once we set the goal, we achieve the goal.
Yeah.
And then we get a next goal. And that sometimes keeps us moving.
Yeah.
You know, most people work 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week for 50 weeks out of the year at their job. Mm-hmm. And they think that's what they're supposed to do, and that's going to make me happy or secure or give me enough money to do the things I want to do or whatever. How much time do people work in actually being happy?
Right. They work more at work than work on themselves.
And what if they spent time, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, something like that, doing the things that build that happiness bucket inside you, you know, that put the seeds in that bucket rather than the depleting bucket out there of the job and the worries and the stresses. It's something that people have to work on every day. It's just not gonna, a light bulb's not going to go off and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I'm so happy now. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And it's a practice. And so there's nothing wrong with achieving goals.
Yeah.
But to get happier, one has to meditate on gratitude.
Yeah.
One has to practice acts of kindness. One has to practice acts of charity. Studies say that you could earn an additional $25,000 a year, invest the time in doing that. It will give you, on a neurological, emotional, chemical basis, a certain level of happiness. Mm-hmm. I think the statistic was like an hour a week of donating your time will give you the same amount of happiness. I think to earn $25,000 extra a year would take a lot of time and energy, and it wouldn't really make me very happy. But an hour a week of donating your time can give you that same happiness.
Right.
It's just that we look at it wrong. It's just an hour, but we look at it like, America, we look at it so wrong. Like it's got to be in the dollars and the cents and the consumer products. It doesn't equate to happiness. It never has.
Yeah. I think also a lot of people don't say that side. Like I listen to so much like speakers and wellness stuff and yoga people and famous people all the time, and they say I'm happy every day, and they say like I'm living my bliss and I'm living my life, and I think that maybe at moments they are, but like they can't be all the time.
No,
they don't say that.
A lot of times you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
A lot of times you look in the mirror and go, I love you, I love you, I love you. But in your head you're going, I hate you.
Yeah.
But I again, the idea that, and you always hear about those people that, I'm so happy, I'm this and that. Right, in the moment they are from time to time, but there's a lot of time, it took them a lot of work to get there.
Yeah.
Half the reason they got into that job is because they were pretty miserable and messed up in the first place.
Yeah.
So they're the same as everybody else. Yeah.
So you feel the same as before? Do you feel like you're the same person now in your life than you were selling real estate?
No. I mean, I definitely feel different. I feel like, as I said, I am more contented. I am happier. Before, I was single. I was a serial dater. In other words, I was always dating somebody over and over and over again. The same situation would crop up. The same kind of person would crop up. The same devastating ending would crop up. My outlook on life was different. I was not happier. And some of it may just be coming with age. Some of it may be the process of practice, of going inside and figuring things out and asking the hard questions and making the hard decisions, and living, knowing yourself well enough to be in integrity is important. If it's out of your integrity and you're living with it, it just burns you up. And sometimes as your own boss, you have a chance to kind of figure that out. Sometimes as an introspective person or being in a business that kind of requires a fair amount of introspection helps. And you start to build brick by brick a foundation that that makes you good. Am I happy every day? No.
Right.
Do my wife and I ever have arguments? Yes. Is my kid ever, do I love her more than anything? Of course. Once in a while, do I want to toss her out the window? Absolutely.
Right.
This is life.
Right.
This is life. One teacher talked to me about enlightenment. You get a body of light, and you know all things, and you can travel great distances, and all this airy-fairy, cartoony kind of stuff. And another teacher said, you know what enlightenment is? It's knowing what to pick up and what to set down, and then acting on it.
Yeah.
And it's not that complicated. You already know the areas in your life you need to pick up, and you know the areas in your life you need to set down.
Yeah, it's making those decisions.
Making those decisions and acting on it. And in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah.
Very hard to do, with pressure and expectation, but with quiet moments you can find those answers.
Yeah.
One can, not you.
No.
One can. And that's critical.
Yeah, I think that's like probably one of the biggest things I've learned throughout this process.
Yeah.
Is I would always avoid decisions.
Right.
And just kind of like play naive. I don't know if I was playing, or it was just easier to not worry about it, and not deal with it. Do anything I could to not have to make those decisions.
Right.
And
And where did that get you?
the same spot.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. See, I have the bathroom philosophy. Do you know what the bathroom philosophy is? All right, this is the bathroom philosophy. You know how in the bathroom sometimes you'll have a moment of introspection or intuition, or the right idea comes, right? You're in the shower, or you're brushing your hair, you're doing something else, but you're in a quiet space doing something single-pointed and focused.
The car.
You're not being distracted by everything else in the world, and you're not going to get interrupted, typically. And you have these moments where your intuition is heightened, or your thought process is heightened, or your sensitivity, or your whatever is more awake. Mm-hmm. Well, so I think that we can have bathroom moments all day long. I know that sounds a little weird, but the point is we can tap into that by practicing being in that space over and over again. So I'm not saying go back in your bathroom over and over again, but I am saying build the mental muscle to be less distracted, to be more mindful, as an example, through mindfulness practices, yoga, meditation, walking in nature.
Yeah.
All the great spiritual practitioners of the centuries, they all, I was in meditation, I was in nature, I was in the desert, I was on a mountain, I was in the forest, I was...
Right.
That tells you something. That when we can get into that space,
that's when
we go inside.
Mm-hmm.
When we can get quiet, we need an atmosphere to do it in. And it's that kind of thing over and over that helps us find our passions.
So, do you ever feel like those moments where you are receding back into your old patterns? Absolutely.
If a couple of days has gone by and I don't meditate and I don't practice yoga or I don't take a walk in nature, I start feeling my old fears come back and my old worries come up and the old arguments in my head and all that stuff comes right back. Absolutely, it does. It's kind of like keeping your stoke up. You know what I mean? If you're it's something you got to practice every day to keep that level of awareness right here in front of you, because as soon as you lose it, it's like the rug gets pulled out from under you. It's like you lose your momentum.
Yeah.
People come here all the time. They're like, I came here because I was having these problems in my life, and yoga helped me so much, and then I don't see them again for 6 months. Oh, they come back 6 months later. How are you? It's good to see you. How have you been? You know what? I was great, but now I'm not feeling so good anymore, so I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Well, if you kept coming, maybe you wouldn't have this thing going on. Maybe. Just try it for 90 days.
Right.
And do it consistently.
Speaking of your relationship with Kate, how is being married to someone that you work with or own a studio with, how does that work, and has that been beneficial to your life, having her so involved in yoga as well? I mean, do you think that has to be?
There are times when it is and times when it isn't. It's like there are times at the end of the day where we just don't want to talk about yoga anymore.
Yeah, no, I get it.
We still love what we do, but what sometimes happens is, we're laying in bed, and instead of talking about our daughter or our day, we're talking about, oh, did you get that flyer out, and what were the numbers at the end of the month, and oh, there was this problem at the studio, and you take your work home with you, and there's no separation.
Yeah.
I think when you own a business, it's like that anyway, but there's just very little separation. So as a result, that's kind of a drag. It's harder for us to go on a date night and not talk about the studio or something like that, and just enjoy each other's company. On the other hand, because we both teach yoga, we know, as studio owners, we know what the teachers need, and I think we know what the public needs, or at least we have an idea anyway. And we're both on the same page with that.
Yeah.
And we also bring two different skill sets into the studio. Like, she does the retail, and she does the front desk stuff, and she does the handling of people in a way that I don't, I couldn't do it the way she does it. She does it so much better. There's other things that I do that she can't do. And so it's a real compliment right now.
Yeah.
And I completely trust her.
Yeah.
She says, I think this has to be changed, it should be done this way. Okay.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So that's helpful.
What are some of, like, your values, or are those in line with each other? And do you think that that's like a must if you're...
I wouldn't want to say must, because, it's... Some people can work together, some people can't. Some people... I wouldn't want to set any guidelines for anything. I think, though, that the desire to serve the public and do it as selflessly as possible is important.
Like, you both are on the same page with that.
That's
what you both
exactly.
want.
Yeah, we do. We also both understand that there are bills to pay, and we have a 4-year-old daughter, and cars, and a house, and mortgage, and health insurance, and like everybody else does. We got to put food on the table as well. But we can also talk about food in a is this organic? Is this healthy? We have access to a lot of information, so that we try to live a healthier lifestyle. Look, when we're both 90, hopefully, we'll look back and go, God, we should have had more ice cream or something. But who knows?
Then you might not have been there.
Yeah, who knows what the science is going to say then? But for now, it works really, really well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important. I mean, I've had relationship where, just recently, where I felt like, in a way, I wasn't understood so much as just like the spiritual side of yoga, and being passionate about it, and trying to change to a better lifestyle, or healthier lifestyle, everything that comes along with that lifestyle. I feel like, in a way, it's important to have, I mean, do you have that support around you to keep that going?
Yeah. And we don't really have it from our families as much as we do within ourselves, because, to take time to meditate, or to do yoga, or to go further to the store, spend more money on certain foods because they're healthier.
Yeah.
We have that support with each other, and if you're in a relationship and the other person's just like totally not into it, it's very challenging.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't feel like not eating the bad food, or whatever,
right.
And you want somebody to go, hey, what's in that? Remember?
I was just gonna say that, like, when you're down, you don't have anyone there to pick you up. You just kind of get sucked into their lifestyle.
Exactly.
And you have to constantly keep pulling yourself out.
Exactly.
I mean, I felt that. I mean, just with family and friends, it's kind of like...
Sure. Well, it's like I've recently started... I mean, I've always been an early morning person, but when our daughter was born, I just wanted to get as much sleep as possible. Now I'm back to early mornings again, and I'm doing early morning practice. And my wife understands that it makes me a better person, a happier person, a better teacher, a better partner. If you don't have that understanding, it's really hard to get up at 5 a.m. to go do your yoga practice. Yeah. The other person's going to be like, look, I worked all day too, suck it up. And
lay with me or something.
Or do whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I got to get out of bed. I have to go do this.
Yeah.
And I get that support from her, which is great.
Yeah. So would you do it all over again? Like, if I feel like you're the same person. Like, I know you say you're not inside. You're not the same person, but like, you could have been in that industry and changed, or do you think you needed that to be who you are today? That's
a really great question. And I thought about it periodically, like, gosh, with what I know today, could I go back into real estate and do it differently? And I think now, after being out of it for so long, I probably could.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't want
to.
Yeah. I still love what I'm doing.
Yeah, you say that now and then.
Yeah. I mean, you know, look, if a bomb dropped...
You're the last one on that list with, like, the least sold.
Yeah.
Because you're not hustling.
But I'm happy, you know.
But you're happy.
Yeah. But I also do believe, though, that people can transform their work relationships and their interpersonal relationships by transforming themselves first.
Yeah.
Everything is a process. Everything's in change. Mm-hmm. And the seeds that you plant in your mind to see your world differently, or the habituation that you do to make yourselves happier, it's going to open other doors. You know, you'll be at the same dead-end job, doing the same thing over and over again, but you're getting happier and happier, and suddenly another position opens up, or the company buys a new thing and they need you over there, and suddenly your job changes. Or the person that was so annoying at work suddenly isn't so annoying anymore, or they get fired, and because it's always in change, keep changing.
Yeah.
You know? And
it's not so much like I have to do this for my life to change. It's like almost being open to change, too. Like, you don't necessarily have to. I think for me, it's like I'm always trying to create the change instead of letting the change happen.
Right.
Maybe.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you know, how do you get quiet? Well, what do you have to do to get quiet? Well, it's what you have to not do, right?
Yeah.
It's what you have to let go of in order to get quiet. So there's but at the same time, you got to find a place to get quiet in. You know, you may have to find the space, a physical building or whatever.
Or change your routine where you have that moment in the morning or something.
So there's going to be some doing in order to get to the being. But the act of being makes the process of doing so much better. Mm-hmm. We just spend a lot of time doing, and we don't spend a lot of time being. Yeah. And you know, it's not that you shouldn't have things. It's not that you shouldn't have possessions. But the possessions shouldn't own you. Yeah. And when they do, we tend to find way less satisfaction and way less gratification in the things that we have. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Where do you have plans for your future, or is this where...
Right now, this is it. I mean, I don't have a desire to do anything else. There will come a time when I probably can't physically teach as many classes as I do or do what I do. I have a coaching certification. I imagine that it would allow me to help people in a similar kind of way. Yeah. And with a yoga and meditation background, that'll be helpful. I'd like to add on more retreats. Yeah. Mindfulness retreats, including yoga and meditation.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Like the silent retreat's my favorite thing.
Yeah. And we're already starting to... The silent retreat for this year is already sold out. We haven't advertised.
That was probably actually the moment in my life, in that silent retreat, when I felt enlightened. You know, when people say that, I felt I had no thought of the future or past whatsoever. I was completely in the moment. Like, I was walking down the hallway, and I was probably walking like a mile per hour, so slow, because I had no hurry. I'm like, where am I going to go? Just rush to my room. Right. So I'm like, I'll just take my time. Yeah. So I just took my time walking, and I'm like, that was like the moment. I'm like, oh, that's it. That's all I need.
And that's
just slow down.
Because I think that to an old age, I can actually help people create those environmental spaces to have their experiences. Yeah. And when you had your experience, that was powerful. Mm-hmm. In one sense, you know, you had to bring yourself there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have never felt that way without that. Right. There's no way. Something about no talking to and just being, you had no other choice, literally, but to just think inward and just be. Right. You have nothing else to do besides walk, and so, I mean, and that's okay. I needed that, and I love that now. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my favorite thing to do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wish I had more people that were, like, I wish my friends and family would be like, this, for vacation, let's go on a week-long retreat. And I don't have that yet, so
right. Now, my family,
it's kind of like a solo thing
my
right
parents
now.
still think I'm crazy, but, you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
You gotta have to deal with that too.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And it's okay. I think as they see me get happier and like just be more myself and comfortable with myself is the major thing. I think they're more open and more confident with it too.
Sure.
Because at first I still do have moments of doubt and weakness and where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know. But then those are less.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think also too, the more you practice yoga, you realize how transient those moments are.
Mm-hmm.
That things are a process and things are always changing, and that emotion may come up and the feelings are there, and then they're not.
Yeah. And knowing that it's not going to last.
Exactly.
Too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, is there anything that you feel like that you want to tell the world or that you've learned or?
I think the interview pretty much says it.
Yeah.
It's for people to be able to see the temporariness of things, that things are a process, and that you can greatly affect your life by just little acts throughout the day. I think that's critical.
And that's really enough, too, right?
It's enough.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.